Do you know me? I was Tom Landry's #1 draft choice in 1975. I said Terry Bradshaw couldn't spell cat if you spotted him the C and the A. I've been a lot of places in my life and time. I'm Thomas Hollywood Henderson, number 56. I was number 56 before Lawrence Taylor was number 56. Matter of fact, Lawrence Taylor wears number 56 because Hollywood wore number 56. My life has been a lot of places. I had a drug problem, I went to jail, but today I'm clean and sober, and we're going to talk about that tonight, next on Sports Waves.
Live from Miami Subs Grill in Dallas, Texas, with the music of Emerald City, this is Sports Waves. Now, here's your host, Mike Doocy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome again to Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy, and we're excited about the show that we have on tap for you tonight. Every week, we talk with some of the biggest names in pro football, and this week is certainly no exception to that rule. Mike Ditka is a guy who's been around the NFL seemingly forever, as a player, as a coach, and now as a broadcaster. Certainly Mike Ditka, no stranger to controversy. Mike will join us a little bit later in the show, live via satellite from his home in Chicago. Also, we think that you folks in our studio audience and you folks watching at home will enjoy sharing with us the story of Thomas Hollywood Henderson, and what a story it is. You know Hollywood Henderson is the former All-Pro linebacker of the Dallas Cowboys. He has an incredible story to tell, in some ways a tragic story, a story of a life and a career that was ruined, for a time anyway, by drug abuse, but also an uplifting story of a man who has really turned his life around. Hollywood Henderson will join us a bit later as well. Our co-host this week is a member of the Dallas Cowboys, is one of the best offensive linemen going, Nate Newton, the all-pro guard for the Dallas Cowboys. Nate enjoys playing football, enjoys being in front of the camera, and we look forward to some lively conversation with Nate Newton this evening. Yes, Nate seems to have a good time with just about everything he does, and for a little background on Nate Newton, we go to Alfredo Roberts.
It's all good. That's it, baby. Number 61, Snoop Hoggy Hog at the Sports Waves, baby.
It's an evening with the Newtons.
I'm a big old city boy that like to play with the stars.
Nate, Dorothy, and Nate the Third. He likes to be called Trey.
Can you dance to that music?
No, we ain't not Germans, but money hopping today.
In 1986, when Nate Newton came to the Cowboys, no one dreamed that he'd be this big. Let me rephrase that. I mean, all-pro and such a media talent.
It's my favorite one of all time. Blade Runner.
What is your favorite football movie?
The Jerry Johnson story.
My favorite movie is A Little House on the Prairie.
What?
Why? Because it's just family. It's just this little family, just away from everybody.
I tried to buy a little house on the prairie, and now she want a mansion out in the desert.
We had the perfect opportunity to see the lighter side of a big man. Put your hands together for Nate Newton. Come on out, Big Nate.
You didn't get quite that reception in Pittsburgh last week, huh? But a great opener for the Cowboys. How about the opening win for the defending Super Bowl champions?
We just went out there and did what we had to do. I mean, they took us lightly, and they got punished.
What? We don't want to dwell on this game too much. Why do you say they took you lightly?
Well, you know, last year New York came in here the first time, and they said, hey, we can beat them. We see where they can be beat. Well, they took us lightly because they saw what New Orleans did to us, which we had our starters on it for about 5 or 10 minutes in the game. And, hey, they saw something we didn't see. So they got punished.
Let's talk a little bit about the opening Sunday in the National Football League. I know there are a few teams that you were a bit surprised by, teams that you think are really riding the wave now as the season gets underway.
Yeah, I think that Joe Montana and the Kansas City Chiefs are riding the wave. I mean, New Orleans wasn't ready for that deal. They blitzed them and they got hurt, you know, so that was a great thing for them.
Also, you think the Dallas Cowboys are looking pretty good right now?
Oh, yeah, we riding the wave, man. I mean, they blitzed us the same way. I mean, Pittsburgh thought they had something going. They tried to sign the big tight end. Too late. Hey, we punished them.
And how about those Indy Colts?
Hey, the Colts are riding a big wave with Marshall Faulk, young guy. And the thing about this guy, he like to get up between the tackles with 4.3 speed. He's a fast Emmett, but I don't know if he's durable and tough like Emmett.
All right, that's one side of it. The other side, some teams are stuck in the sand after opening day. New Orleans Saints, I know you feel, might be on the downward slide. Huh?
Hey, New Orleans, man, like I said, they got suckered last week. But, you know, they thinking they're gonna kill us, you know, with our 8th team in there and got drugged by Joe Montana and the Kansas City Chiefs.
And Pittsburgh, the team that you saw last Sunday, a lot of people thought that might be a Super Bowl preview with Pittsburgh and Dallas, but the Steelers have a ways to go, huh?
Well, now that the Steelers see what they got to measure up to, then maybe they can roll through Buffalo and the Raiders and get them.
And finally, the team that's next up for the Cowboys, Houston Oilers, definitely did not look good on opening day.
And this definitely ain't Mexico. This ain't the Mud Bowl, and we can't drink the water in Texas Stadium. So we're going to crush them, too.
Nate, obviously, with still some bitter memories of that Mexico City experience. Our wave line question, our viewer poll question tonight has to do with the baseball strike. Wanted to get a quick word from you on the baseball strike. Something tells me you might side with the players, huh?
I'm definitely siding with the players. I mean, the thing about it, man, I hope the fans understand that, hey, these guys, I mean, even though it's a lot of money they got to feed their families, I mean, maybe their income tax can feed most people's family, but, hey, they got to be paid. I mean, you got minor league guys that's coming up trying to be the best they can be. I mean, you got to stay strong because if you sell out, now let's use that word, sell out, then you may get the ability, the talent that's coming up behind that may not be as great.
All right, we want to know what you folks at home think about the strike now that football season is upon us. But before we go into that question, last week we asked you if the NFL was better off or worse off because of the salary cap that's in effect. The results are in from that viewer poll. 47% believe the NFL is better off with the cap. 53% say that it is worse off. Nate Newton, I know that Michael Irvin has been on this show and has railed against the salary cap, but still, it's something that that you players wanted in exchange for free agency. Quickly, is it just something that the players are going to have to put up with for a while?
It's something we got to put up with for 7 years. I'll be out of the league by then. But I'm going to tell you like this right here, man. I benefited from it, so I'm not going to criticize it too bad. But it's young guys that's thinking they're going to make a lot of dollars, and it might not happen for them.
All right, this week the baseball strike continues. We ask, how concerned are you about the fact that Major League Baseball is not in session right now? Very concerned, mildly upset, or could you care less? Give us a call on the wave line at 1-800-700-9002. Give us your 2 cents worth. It doesn't cost a penny. And we'll be back with more Sports Waves in a minute.
Hi, this is Carolyn F. Sports Waves will be right back with the Bears' Mike Ditka. But first, Sports Waves is presented by Apex, authentic NFL Pro Line apparel, available at Foot Action. By American Airlines, something special in the air. And by Miami Subs...
Welcome back to Sports Waves, everybody. Along with Nate Newton, I'm Mike Doocy. And already on Sports Waves, we're striving to bring you some of the best guests from around the NFL. We've had Reggie White on. We have Nate on this week. We've had Terry Bradshaw on in the past. Of course, Jimmy Johnson is our regular co-host. Tonight, we bring you a man who owns a Super Bowl ring as a player from Dallas in 1971, as a coach from Chicago in 1985. With more on Mike Ditka, here's Bob Vorwald in Chicago.
He is an NFL legend. Mike Ditka came to the Chicago Bears in 1961 after an All-American career at Pitt. Ditka immediately redefined the tight end position and established himself as one of the game's fiercest competitors. After leaving the Bears, Ditka finished his career in Dallas, catching a touchdown pass in the 1972 Super Bowl and becoming the first tight end voted into the Hall of Fame. He stayed with the Cowboys, spending 10 years as an assistant to Tom Landry. But Iron Mike's heart was in Chicago, and when the Bears job opened up in 1982, George Halas brought him back to the Windy City.
I think what it means for Chicago is we're going to give them a football team that's going to be a winning football team, it's going to be an interesting football team, and it's going to be a football team that everybody can be very proud of.
His first priority was to put the bite back into the Bears. 4 years later, his zany cast of characters took the country by storm. Ditka put the fridge in the backfield and the Bears in the Super Bowl. His success on the field was matched by numerous opportunities off it.
You think my guys are going to be sidelined by a tough sinus cold? Not these Grabowskis. The Bears. What are you looking at?
Ditka currently spends his football seasons working for NBC Sports, but he's never far from the hearts and minds of the Chicago fans he thrilled for years. In Chicago, I'm Bob Vorwald for Sports Waves.
Thank you. And joining us now live via satellite from the Windy City, here's Mike Ditka. Mike, this is Mike Doocy in Dallas along with Nate Newton. It sounds like a lot of people in Big D still remember you.
Yeah, I can't tell if those are boos or not, Mike. They might sound like boos to me. That's what I'm used to getting in Chicago, boos.
Let's get a couple of quick impressions from you on the opening weekend of games. Anything really jump out at you in terms of surprises?
Well, I think I wasn't really surprised by a whole lot of things. I really thought that the Indianapolis team would be a much better team. Marshall Faulk adds a great dimension to him, and he gives Harbaugh a chance to do the things he does. I thought the Cowboys looked very well. I watched that game. The Patriots and the Miami was just one heck of a ball game, but then it's hard to say what's a good ball game because they didn't play very well on the defensive side of the ball, especially the Miami team. They're not very good on defense in the secondary. I thought there were a lot of good. I agree with Nate that I thought the Chiefs looked good. I think you ought to have a pretty good football game tonight between the 49ers and the Raiders. You know, going around the league, other than that, I didn't see a whole lot of surprises. Well, the Jets beating Buffalo, to me, is a surprise. I think Buffalo played very well in preseason, but they looked completely out of sync on Sunday. I watched most of the game.
Hey, Coach Dick, look at this, Nate. Yes, look at him, man. I looked at on the all-NFL team, and you the tight end there. You a Hall of Famer, man. Is it the film that's the slow, or was it just you?
I was slow. I was slow. There's no question.
Now. You was a brutal blocker.
Well, I tell you what, you got to do what you got to do in life, Nate. And I never talked my way through anything, but I fought my way through a couple of things. But I was not fast. No, and answer your question. No. Those guys run circles around me.
Yeah.
I probably couldn't even beat Michael Irvin in a race.
But tell Mike that, Coach.
Okay.
Mike, were you surprised when you were voted to that all-league team for the last 75 years?
And let me say something about that. It's a great honor, but I think when you're talking about 48 players over 75 years, I think it's not realistic. I think there's so many good people who have played this game. It's very hard to do that. I mean, I look at the tight ends, the quarterbacks, the running back. It's just not fair. There's too many good people who have played. And I guess the true thing is if you make the Hall of Fame, then I think that means something.
We do have Nate Newton sitting here. He strikes me as the kind of guy who could have played pretty easily for you, huh, Mike?
Well, Nate Newton's a good football player. He can play football. I mean, anybody that's willing to play football would never have a problem with me. It's the guys that didn't want to play that had a problem with
Thanks,
me.
Coach. How much do you miss it? I know you're asked this constantly, but how much do you miss the sideline?
Well, the game is changing. It really is. I watch the owners in the league today, and there's no loyalty in the game. It's hard to create loyalty where you can get a player and say, geez, I want to play my whole career in Dallas or Chicago or Philadelphia. It's hard because they're going to be swayed by money, and I think the owners are going to be swayed by the same thing, And, I heard the conversation about the salary cap. The salary cap is good in the sense it gives everybody an equal field to play on. But the fellow it hurts is that veteran who's played about 9, 10 years, who's got a couple years left, who's making $1.5 million or $1.2 million. He's the guy that's going to get drummed out, and they're going to take a rookie over him. And to me, that's unfair. That's where the loyalty thing comes in. Nobody's going to be loyal to a guy who broke their butt for you for 9 or 10 years, and I think that's very unfair.
Mike Ditka, we have a question from one of our people in our studio audience. Let's go to Carolyn now.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, I'm out here with Dennis Anderson. Dennis has a question, or maybe two, for Mike.
Actually, I have two for you, Mike. One, are you still interested in coaching in the NFL? And two, who is the modern-day Ditka?
Well, you know, I don't know. There's a kid up in New England called Ben Coates. He is one hell of a tight end, let me tell you. This is a big kid that can block and he can catch the ball. I don't know if you saw him yesterday in the Miami game. He caught a couple touchdown passes, but this guy can make it happen. Mark Bavaro is kind of past his prime, but he's the same kind of tight end I was. He's got no speed, but he just plays hard. You know, as far as coaching, again, I think maybe my time has come and gone. You know, I had a great job. I worked for a great organization, and we did some wonderful things. You know, Dave's got a great opportunity, the same kind of opportunity I had, you know, 12 years ago he has now. So I think maybe my time is gone. I have no regrets, and I have no animosity. I'm not mad at anybody. If the right deal came up and somebody wanted to try to win the old-fashioned way, I'd give it one more try.
Mike, stay with us. We'll have much more with Mike Ditka coming up. But first, some news on a limited offer for our fans.
Now is your chance to join our team by ordering the Sports Waves Fan Pack. This special offer includes our T-shirt, cap, keychain, and an autographed picture of the man himself, Jimmy Johnson. The hottest team in football is Jimmy's team, and you can be a part of it with our fan pack for only $32.95. Sports Waves accepts MasterCard, Visa, and Discover. Just pick up the phone and call 1-800-851-5511 for orders only. Give us 2 to 3 weeks for delivery, and you can proudly display the Sports Waves colors.
Come on, take the plunge.
Operators are standing by. Offer void where prohibited. The waves not included.
Sports Waves is sponsored in part by Acock Tire and Wheel, by Bargain Hawk of Texas.
Welcome back to Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy with Nate Newton and Mike Ditka from his home in Chicago joining us. Mike, Jimmy Johnson left the Cowboys and also left Dallas. He's now living in South Florida. You left the Bears, but you still live in Chicago. Is it tough at all still being that close to always getting the Bears news, but no longer being the head coach?
No, it's really not tough at all. The only reason I stay in Chicago, I happen to like the city, I like the people, and it's easy for me to connect around the country. I do a lot of traveling, I do a lot of speaking to different businesses, companies, and groups, so I'm always on the go. I also have a home on the southwest coast of Florida, so I have time to spend down there in the wintertime if I want to. But I do enough traveling that I'm not here all the time.
Yeah, go ahead, Nate.
Hey, Coach,
yes,
I just want to ask one question, man. How do you think Buddy Ryan's going to do with the Arizona, whatever they are, Cardinals?
The Arizona Cardinals. Well, you know,
Phoenix, whatever.
You know, I picked Buddy to do real well, and everybody thinks I'm tweaking him or pulling his leg. But I think one thing, you know, you can do a lot of things in football, but you can't fool people. You got to go out and play on Sunday.
Right.
Now, I watched the game against the Rams. They played pretty good on the defensive side of the ball, but they aren't playing very good on the offensive side of the ball. They got a very, very vanilla offense that is very easy to defense.
Right.
I think he's going to have a lot of problems unless he opens that thing up a little bit.
Okay.
I don't care how good you play on defense. You got to score some points to take the pressure off your defense. But from what I saw against the Rams, they're going to have a long season.
Okay. Mike, I wanted to ask you quickly for a prediction or two. In the NFC, does anybody have enough to dethrone the Cowboys?
Well, I think what Barry said is right. You got to go through Dallas to win it. I think the 49ers will probably be, it might be the same championship game as been the last 2 years. I think they're the best of the other teams. I I really don't know if anybody else can match up to Dallas outside of them. I mean, I look around, maybe somebody in the Central Division, but not right now. Maybe by the end of the year they'll get better. In the AFC, you know, I guess Kansas City and Miami, but I kind of think the Raiders are back. I think the Raiders have a lot of good things. If they can run the ball, that's the big question mark. I think they got a good quarterback. They got a lot of speed at wide receiver, pretty good offensive and defensive line. But they've got to be able to run the ball to win.
All right, Mike, we have another question from our studio audience. Carolyn.
Thanks, Mike. Kevin Listman, excuse me, I almost fumbled his name up. Kevin Listman's out here, and he has a question for Mike Ditka.
In the preseason, you picked Arizona to win the NFC East. I wonder if your opinion has changed any after week 1.
Well, I can't change my opinion. I think when I made that pick, and let me tell you why I made that pick, I thought Joe Bugle had turned the corner with the Arizona Cardinals last year. I thought Joe did a heck of a job. I think when Buddy takes and he puts Joyner in there, and he puts Simmons in there, and he puts some of the other people he put in that defense, they should be a better football team. Now, they weren't that far away last year. They were 7-9. I figured that'd put them at 10-6. They may not win the division, but they could be a wild card. And that's basically the way I still see it. But after watching them against the Rams, I'm not sure what I saw.
Well, Mike, now you make part of your living as a commentator, studio analyst for NBC. What did you think of Fox's debut from what you were able to see or what you were able to hear about it?
Well, I just got to watch a couple of the games. I got to watch, I got to watch the Steeler game, and I got to watch Steelers and Cowboys, and I got to watch the Bears. I watched the games on Fox, but I never get a chance to see the studio show. So I don't get hooked up in that. You know, they do a great job. They're professionals. I have great respect for all their talent, Jimmy, and all the other people on the show. I can't even name them all. They got a cast of thousands like we do right now.
Back into our audience with our cast of thousands and Carolyn Neff.
Thanks, Mike. Clay Bacher has a question for Mike Ditka.
Mike, do you think we'll see the same incredible offensive numbers throughout the season that we saw this Sunday?
Well, I think you got to look at what the rules are doing. I think the rules are geared for an exciting, open, scoring game. That's what the NFL wants. They're marketing a product that's a high-scoring product. The kickoff, where they're kicking off from with a 1-inch tee, automatically changes field position, a 2-point conversion, the one bump within 5 yards on defense. A lot of things should really favor the offense, plus the not being able to hit the quarterback once he releases the ball. I think there's a lot of things that favor the offense. Will the scoring stay the same? I don't know. When you put two good football teams on the field, maybe you'll see a game that'll be 14-10. I don't know.
All right, Mike, before we let you go, we have Thomas Hollywood Henderson on in a little bit. Of course, you coached him as a special teams coach with the Cowboys. From Hollywood Henderson's book, a quick line. Mike Ditka is a maniac. He could coach choir girls and make them bloodthirsty champions. He means that. He meant that as a compliment. How about Thomas Henderson? What did you think of him as a player and a person?
You know, I was fortunate. I spent a lot of time with the Cowboys, 13 years. And I spent 9 on Tom's staff, and I was very proud of that and very lucky to be a part of that great era of the Cowboys. They have a great one now, but that was a great one also. And I can remember that rookie team, and I believe it was in 1975 when Thomas Henderson and White and those guys came in. We had what we called the Dirty Dozen. We kept 12 rookies that year. So I got to use all those guys on my special teams, and those guys were the greatest special team players the league has ever seen, believe me. We ran reverses at Hollywood. We did everything, but he was an outstanding football player. Besides being a good special teams player, this guy was a great football player. You know, he knows what happened to him. If he wouldn't have got screwed up a little bit along the way, he probably would have went down as one of the all-time best.
Mike Ditka, we appreciate your time from Chicago.
Thank you very much. Thomas, my best mate. Thank you. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Again, thank you to Mike Ditka. When we come back, we go around the NFL, and we'll also reintroduce you to Thomas Hollywood Henderson. But first, here's Tamura with a reminder on the wave line.
That's right, Mike. This week, we want to know how much you're concerned about the baseball strike. Very worried, mildly concerned, or could you care less? Give the wave line a free call at 1-800-700-9002. We'll have results later in the show.
Now, Nate Newton, they had an order of food ready for you here at Miami
No,
Subs
no,
Grill.
no, that was for Thomas, man. Hollywood want that. That wasn't for me.
You were asked about your weight so much. I guess we're going to ask you about it in just a few minutes. I know some people in our audience may have some questions about it, but you've come in the best shape of your career to the Dallas Cowboys this year. I want to get some advice from you on how to lose some weight. In fact, 1994 marks the 75th anniversary of the National Football League, and if the opening Sunday is any indication, the rules changes will have quite an effect. Could make the 1994 season the year of the offense. Teams scoring an average of 46 points on opening day, many more points than was the average a year ago in 1993. Mark Meter has more on a wild debut.
The war, known as the 75th National Football League season, opened with an air attack. No less than 6 quarterbacks threw for more than 300 yards, including Cunningham, Elway, and Everett. Joe Montana threw for 315 yards with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions in a 30-17 victory over New Orleans. But it was Miami and New England who brought out the big bombers. The Pats' Drew Bledsoe exploding for 421 yards and 4 scores. But it wasn't enough compared to the General. Dan Marino's 4-star performance yielded 473 yards and 5 touchdowns as the Dolphins outgunned the Patriots 39-35. This game tallied 894 yards and 9 touchdowns in the air. Opening day's ground defensives were not nearly as impressive. Only 4 players ran for 100-plus yards, including Barry Sanders and Marshall Faulk. Emmitt Smith came out of the blocks quickly in his race for a 4th NFL rushing title with 171 yards and 1 touchdown as the defending Super Bowl champs Dallas rolled past Pittsburgh 26-9. Buddy Ryan's debut as head coach of the Cardinals was spoiled by the Rams and a lightning strike. LA's Todd Light snagged an airborne fumble and turned it into 6 points as the Rams dropped the Cards 14-12. Warren Moon's first outing in a Vikings uniform drew boos and bad reviews. 3 interceptions and 3 sacks were factors in a 16-10 loss to Green Bay. The biggest play yardage-wise from Week 1 was turned in by San Diego Chargers defensive back Stanley Richards, who picked off a John Elway pass near the goal line and scampered for 99 yards and 6 points, helping San Diego beat back Denver 37-34. Top it all off with the NFL's first ever 2-point conversion. Cleveland surprised Cincy with the fake kick. Holder Tom Tupo runs it in for the deuce. With the NFL wrap-up, I'm Mark Meter for Sports Waves.
All right, Mark, thank you. Nate, as a guy who plays offense, you have to like this trend toward higher-scoring games, huh?
Yeah, it was all right, man. But, you know, we was up in the Steelers deal up here the other night, man. I hate to bring this up. But the Steelers tried every tactic they could to make us bored and unhappy. They brought on that game at Cleveland and Cincinnati before them. I mean, we was about to go to sleep by the time we got to the stadium.
Had to watch Cleveland, Cincinnati to get fired up for your ball game.
That's right.
We'll be back with more with Nate in just a few minutes. Thomas Henderson joins us as well. Sports Waves will turn just a bit more serious in a moment. First, here's a wave of the present.
Hi, I'm Alice Williams. Don't forget to join our team by ordering your Sports Waves fan pack. And if you're one of the next 25 callers, your t-shirt will be personally autographed by Jimmy Johnson. Call 1-800-851-5511. We'll be right back with the Big Kahuna and Hollywood Henderson.
The Big Kahuna.
It was the NFC title game in 1979 at the LA Coliseum. Vince Ferragamo back to pass when Thomas Hollywood Henderson picks him off and goes 68 yards for the touchdown. Dallas going on to win 28-0. Thomas Hollywood Henderson, the NFL's Big Kahuna.
We're back on Sports Waves. Mike Doocy with Nate Newton, and what a player Thomas Henderson was. In 1975, Thomas Henderson was a member of the Dirty Dozen, one of the 12 rookies who had a lasting impact on America's team under Coach Tom Landry. Of the 12, none had quite the turmoil, the turnaround, or as the good-looking and fast-talking young man out of Langston College. Tony Martinez has a look back at the man that they called Hollywood.
Down goes Stewart. Thomas Henderson.
His nickname was Hollywood, and in the late 70s, no NFL linebacker talked faster, played better, and consumed more drugs than Thomas Henderson. Years later, he'd be the first NFL player to admit to drug addiction. At the time, many Cowboys were unaware a problem existed.
Thomas Henderson is one of those delightful people that doesn't mind being an egotist. And I think another very important facet of it is that he is a fine young man off the football field.
Is that your eventual goal after football, is to go into acting?
Well, not so much acting, just anything that's successful and makes six figures.
During TV interviews and even at practice in 1978, Henderson admits now he was usually high. At the Super Bowl in front of 80,000 screaming fans in Miami and 200 million more around the world, Henderson was snorting cocaine on the sidelines. His book, Out of Control, Confessions of an NFL Casualty, is an agonizing story of a man obsessed with alcohol, drugs, and sex. In the book, Henderson describes in detail the tragic consequences of his disease, of the day in 1979 when Coach Tom Landry cut him in mid-season, and Henderson immediately went out and bought 7 ounces of cocaine to ease the pain. By the end of his career in 1981, Henderson was freebasing coke to the tune of $2,500 a day. On November 2nd, 1983, Henderson had sex and freebased cocaine with 2 women. Both were minors. A 2-year prison term and a long-term rehabilitation followed. Today, apparently clean for over a decade, Henderson is no longer Hollywood. He speaks out freely now, not of the Super Bowl, but of the Sober Bowl. Ladies and gentlemen, from Austin, Texas, Thomas Henderson.
Hey, Newt.
How you doing, Hollywood?
Good.
Thomas, just a fascinating piece there that really chronicled your life and your career. How'd you feel as you looked at some of that video and heard some of those quotes?
Well, I still like to make 6 figures. You know, the miracle, I think, of it all is that I have been clean and sober and changed for almost 11 years. That's the news. I was about 24, 25 years old on some of that footage, and I looked at that footage there, and I was actually under the influence. I can, look back and tell that. Had a great career as a Dallas Cowboy, 3 Super Bowls. I think we could have beat y'all.
Okay. All right. Go on and tell your story, Tom.
But as I look back at that, that was a phase in my life. And some good times, some tragic times, a lot of lessons, a lot of growth since then.
In reading your book, and again, just a fascinating look at your life and how you managed to get through the career, it's amazing that you're able to function at all, let alone play football in the NFL. But there's one story that I've heard you tell as to when you really hit rock bottom, and it has to do with Christmas time. It has to do with your daughter, and I think it really tells a story as to how low things had gotten for you.
Yeah, I was in Miami, and I was freebasing cocaine, and I had promised my daughter that I was going to come be with her for Christmas. And it was one of those 4 or 5 day binges that I was on, and cocaine was king, and it kept me from going to be with my child. And that was a time when I started to understand that there's something wrong with this. This started out being fun, exciting. I was ebullient, but now I was neglecting my baby and neglecting my career. I was violating my body. And to let everybody understand a little bit about cocaine addiction is that there came a time when I wanted to quit, but I didn't know how. I was so caught up in it that here my life was where I could have had anything I wanted, played for any team, and I'm in some cheap motel room doing drugs. So I became addicted, and addicted means there came a point where I wanted to quit but didn't know how.
How did you finally learn how, or how did the help finally come to you?
Well, I mean, I hit a bottom that was, you know, they call it the pitiful and incomprehensible demoralizing place, where I was in trouble. I had been accused of things I didn't do. I was freebasing cocaine, got into some stuff that, you know, just went down, and I wanted to kill myself. I mean, how was I ever going to raise my head up? How was I ever going to recover from this? Were people going to look at me always in a downward looking kind of way? So I made a decision to go ahead and live, because I understood that cocaine had put me in that place, that behavior in conjunction with that disease had put me there. Now, the best forgiveness that I can think of is I don't do that anymore. I haven't been arrested. I don't go to jail. I don't do drugs. So if there is a forgiveness, I forgave myself. I've changed my life. I've worked with others. I continue to work with others. I do what I say I'm going to do. I, Thomas Henderson, I'm not my mistakes. I'm not my disease. I'm who I've become and who I maintain today.
In your book, you obviously talk a lot about your relationship with other players on the Cowboys teams in the 70s and with Coach Tom Landry. Obviously, there were some problems there. What's your relationship like with Landry now?
Me and Landry are cool now. But there was a time, you know, when I just wasn't hearing nobody. And that was about me not knowing how to live. You know, I resented Tom Landry because he had a family. He was a man of God. He had morals and ethics, and I have none of that, and I never comprehended that kind of life. Now I try to have what he has in my life today. So Landry, to me today, is sort of a role model.
Thomas Henderson, Nate Newton will be back with more Sports Waves.
Hey, this ain't sports, is it?
Take your taste to a different place.
Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy. This is Thomas Henderson and Nate Newton. We have questions from our studio audience for Thomas Hollywood Henderson. Let's go to Carolyn.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, Hollywood. Hi, Nate. How you doing?
Hi there.
Good. Andrew Wood has a question for Hollywood.
Yes. What would you recommend for rookies or new players coming in to do or to avoid to keep out of trouble?
Well, I'd suggest they stay away from fast women and dope.
Just as simple as that, huh?
Simple as that.
Okay, that's a pretty good one-line response.
You getting hard up on this show, man. Lock it up. Yeah, bro.
Let's go back into the studio audience.
I agree with the dope.
Carolyn?
Thanks, Mike. Bernice Starks has a question for you, Hollywood.
Yes, hello, Hollywood. When I heard you was going to be here tonight, I want to know about the confrontation between you and Randy White.
Oh, me and Randy White. Well, I made a mistake. I slapped Randy White. And then we had been doing a slap boxing thing. I'm real quick, so I got the best of him, and we had got into an argument, and then we went in the locker room, and he was talking, and I slapped him, and then I tried to grab him, and he threw me on the floor, and he had me pinned to the floor, and I said to him, "If you let me up, I'll kick your butt." If you let me up, you get it?
I got into a conversation with Randy too, man. It wasn't that nice, man. But I made the team by fighting him. My first year, yeah. So
yeah, they call Randy White Manster.
The master, half man, half monster. He was truly. He was truly. Hey, more on the more positive side, man. I mean, you came to me with a proposition this summer, me and a few other players, about some guys that never had a football field. Could you explain that?
I live in Austin, Texas, and Tom Landry and a lot of guys came down, and I'm developing a football field for kids in Austin, Texas. And so I kind of was getting low on money, and you know, if you're going to build a football field, you got to have bleachers. So I asked Nate and Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin, and these guys are coming through, and they trust that Thomas Henderson's not on dope and he ain't scamming. They trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So this guy and some other cowboys gave me some money to put bleachers in that thing.
For now, let's go back into our studio audience. Another question. Carolyn.
Thanks, Mike. Dana Purvis, what's your question?
During your career, you played with a lot of the great ones. Who is your favorite?
Roger Staubach would probably be my favorite player. Roger Staubach is one of those white guys that I would go in an alley with. You know what I'm saying? Although he's a real nice man, Roger will fight you, man.
You know, he had all them Navy techniques. So,
That's right, man.
Yeah.
Roger was a great player, and he probably was my favorite.
You told the story quickly in the book about Roger and Longley, the backup quarterback, how Longley cheap-shotted him in the locker room, and you heard some words come out of Staubach's mouth that you never thought you'd hear.
Yeah, I was probably one of the few people who actually... I'm sitting in my locker tired. You know, Landry had dogged us.
Yeah.
Run those 110s, and I'm sitting there after a two-a-day and watched the Longley sucker punch him, but... So, Roger says I tell the story great, but I don't want to do it tonight.
Thomas Henderson, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
We're back with more Sports Waves in a moment. Here's a look at some of the pick threes from last week and this week in the NFL.
And by Miami Subs Grill. Great food served fast.
Saxophone,
Back on Sports Waves, you've been enjoying the music of Emerald City tonight. They did a great job. Let's hear it for Emerald City just a little bit. Nate Newton, a couple of fascinating guys on the show tonight in Thomas Henderson and Mike Ditka. Did you learn anything tonight from either of these guys?
Yeah, I learned that fast women and dope ain't gonna mix. And I learned another thing that playing tight end when you're that slow as Ditka, that ain't gonna work either.
Let's take a look at our wave line question. We asked you about the baseball strike, whether you really could care less about it. There you see it. So far, 28% say they are very concerned. 10% say they are mildly concerned. 62% say they could not care less. Let's talk a little bit of football. Cowboys are still the favorite in the NFC. The Niners have enough to give you guys a tussle here down the road, do you think?
Yeah, they can tussle, but it won't do any good.
I have to ask the obligatory question about the coaching change. Did you notice anything different on the sideline with Barry Switzer on last Sunday as opposed to Jimmy Johnson?
Yeah, we could stand out closer to the field with Coach Switzer, whereas when Coach Johnson is on the sideline, you can't stand close to the field, because, boy, he's fiery red, man. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Nate Newton, thanks for spending some time with us.
Hey, the dude.
All right, thank you. Jimmy Johnson joins us next week here on Sports Waves. Don Shula, Charles Haley, and Pat Summerall.
Charles Haley.
Broadcast as well. Hope you can be with us next time on Sports Waves. Should be a great show. Guests on Sports Waves, including Nate Newton, receive a custom suit from Lombardo Custom Apparel, America's finest custom clothier. For all of us here on Sports Waves, thanks very much for making this a great hour. I'm Mike Doocy. We'll see you next time on Sports Waves. Good night, everybody.
Wardrobe by Lombardo Custom Apparel, America's finest custom clothier. Accommodations in South Florida provided by the Marriott Key Largo Bay Beach Resort. And in Dallas, Jimmy Johnson and his guests stay at the beautiful Melrose Hotel. Sports Waves is a presentation of DCL Media and Lone Star Hospitality Corporation.